happening at State right now. Alexa, play me news from Alma 88.
Good evening, Atlanta, and shout out to all of our Georgia State students, faculty, and staff members listening in with us tonight. We have a wonderful show prepared for y'all tonight. We were facing a couple of technical difficulties in the beginning there, but we are getting started right around the 8 o'clock mark.
What exactly is 88 Affairs?
So 88 Affairs is a news show that we do every single Friday night from 7 to 9 on Album 88. We target very GSU hyper-focused stories, some Atlanta stories. That said, we don't do a lot into detail because there's already a bunch of sources for that. But for GSU news specific, we try to do news from the week, events that happen, protests that are happening, any tips from students and whatnot. That's what 88 Affairs is. This Halloween, Georgia State University hosted their haunted house event, and it was a whopping success. There were haunted mazes, jump scares, and scared students. According to the event attendee,
we've had about close to, if not at this point, 350 people who have attended thus far. So
the event lasted nearly 4 hours from 11 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. The entire time, there were long lines, and some students even re-attended the event. We talked to an event coordinator, Ethan Kearney. He said,
couldn't see anything, and like a bunch of people were just jumping out at you. You only saw like shadows and stuff.
I'm Kyle Wong with 88 Affairs. We have interview segments where we try to interview professors and teachers about interesting classes. The goal is just for students to learn more about what's going on at GSU.
All right, what's your general process for working on 88 Affairs?
So the general process starts at the beginning of the week. Even though the show airs at Friday nights from 7 to 9, the show starts hitting the ground at Monday, on Mondays, and even sometimes on Sundays before. What the general process is like is we scout out a whole new script, and we scout out events that are happening that week. We look for things like events that the school is hosting, maybe potential like notes and stickers down the streets to see if things are happening there, or even like some entertaining events. And so when we plan those out, then over the course of the week, we go to them. I send some reporters there. I sometimes go to some of the events, and then we record, we report, we try to interview people, and then by the end of the week, when we have all our sources and all our information, we chop them up on Thursday night, most of the time Friday, I'll be honest, and then when we put them all together, we air it on Friday night. 3, 2, 1. On Wednesday night at the heart of GSU, located at 25 Park Place, Atlanta's best women DJs were on a discussion panel teaching students how to become successful DJs. Famous DJs like DJ Princess Cut, DJ Abby, and others covered how they got into the industry, who to speak to, and what level of education was needed.
All right, and then for your interviews, what kind of people do you look to interview? Like, what kind of things you try to focus on when you make these interviews?
Ooh, okay. Really good question. Usually we have 2 main interview segments. Arguably 3, but 2 main interview segments. One is a class focus. Class focus is typically a interview with a professor that teaches a interesting class. From the last 13 weeks that we've ran, 13 shows. We ran 13 shows. We have interviewed multiple professors that teach multiple different classes. My favorite so far has been like a class about interpersonal communication, specifically about romance and how to talk to your partners. And so that will be an interesting class, and usually we frame it in a way where we want students to be like, hey, if I'm going to register for a class next semester, this is the class I want to take. Evening, I'm Kyle Wong, and sitting down with us today is a very, very special guest. It is Dr. Juliana Kubala. She's a senior lecturer for the Institute for Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies at GSU. She also teaches a class on feminism and Foucault. How are you doing today, Dr. Kubala?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. In your words, what is your class on feminism and Foucault about?
So basically, what the class is about is thinking through some of the main ideas that Foucault had in relation to feminism. Now, probably many of your audience don't know who Foucault is. Michel Foucault is a French philosopher, historian, theorist, and he came up with many ideas about the body, discipline, surveillance, and all the ways in which the sort of modern state meaning like since the revolution, since the foundation of the United States, since the French Revolution, how modern subjectivity develops after the fall of feudalism.
The second interview we do is called the main interview. That main interview is typically with an individual that has a very unique background or has a lot of authority or has like, in a position that not many people know about. So typically we interview people like deans or student government association presidents, right? Because unfortunately, even though we have a student government association right down the hall, not everyone knows what they typically do. And so when we interview them, we try to bring them to light, tell GSU students what they do, and show that, the inside and outs of how the school runs.